Day 847 of working for someone who's equal parts infuriating and unfairly attractive. How am I supposed to concentrate when my boss walks into meetings looking like he stepped off a magazine cover? It's a problem. A 6'2" sharp suit wearing has the audacity to smell good problem. Naomi Smith's voice echoed from 200 phones across Titan Industries as she stood frozen at her desk, watching the Slack notifications explode like fireworks on her screen. She'd meant to send that voice memo to her best friend Serena. She'd sent it to the entire company instead, including the man she was currently describing in mortifying detail. This was how her career ended. Not with a performance review. With a thirst trap gone catastrophically wrong. The realization hit her in stages. Each one worse than the last. Stage 1. Confusion. Why was her phone buzzing so violently? Stage 2. Recognition. That was the Slack notification sound. Dozens of them. Overlapping. Stage 3. Horror. She looked at her screen and saw the words that would haunt her nightmares. All staff updates. 200 plus. Members. Naomi Smith posted a voice message. 1.47 seconds. No. No. The company-wide channel. The one reserved for critical announcements only. New hires, executive departures, building evacuations. Not personal voice memos about how your CEO smells good and looks like he walked off a magazine cover. Her hands started shaking. The phone nearly slipped from her grip. She'd been walking back from that brutal 3-hour meeting with Damien Cross, so frustrated she could scream. She'd pulled out her phone, intending to vent to Serena like she always did. Record a quick voice memo. Let it all out. Except she'd had multiple apps open. Slack, WhatsApp, Messages. And when she'd hit that record button and then sent, oh God, she'd sent it to everyone. The reactions were rolling in faster than she could process them. Her screen lit up like a slot machine hitting jackpot. Except, instead of winning money, she was winning unemployment. 47 reactions. 23 reactions, 31 reactions, 15 reactions. Someone posted a GIF of a woman hiding behind a plant. Caption, Naomi RN. Someone else, I'm screaming. Another, this is the best thing that's happened all week. Around her, the open floor plan of Titan Industries had transformed into a theater of barely concealed chaos. Keyboards stopped clacking. Phone calls ended abruptly. The usual Thursday afternoon buzz died into a loaded silence, punctuated by poorly stifled laughter. Naomi could feel 200 pairs of eyes on her, some pretending to work, others not even bothering to hide their stares. A few had their phones out, probably texting friends in other departments. By tomorrow, this would be corporate legend. Her fingers flew across the screen, searching desperately for the delete button. Where was it? Why did Slack make it so hard to undo career suicide? There, the trash icon. She tapped it so hard her finger hurt. Delete message? This will remove the message for everyone. Yes, please. Delete it. Erase it. Burn it from existence and every server it touched. Message deleted. But the damage was permanent. She knew how the internet worked, how corporate gossip worked. Screenshots had already been taken. The audio file already saved. People were probably emailing it to themselves right now for posterity. Remember the time Naomi Smith called the CEO hot on the company Slack? She wanted to disappear, to melt into the floor, to rewind time by exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds and make different choices. Her phone buzzed in her hand. A new notification, a direct message, from Damien Cross, the man who had definitely, absolutely, certainly heard her call him unfairly attractive and complain about how good he smelled. Her stomach dropped through the floor and kept falling. Damien Cross. My office. Now. 3 words. No punctuation beyond the period. The professional equivalent of "we need to talk" from a partner who just found your dating app still installed. Naomi stood on legs that felt like they'd forgotten how to support her weight. She smoothed her navy blazer with trembling hands. Around her, colleagues weren't even pretending not to watch anymore. This was entertainment. This was the most exciting thing to happen at Titan Industries since the CFO had accidentally replied all to complain about the CEO's coffee order. Except that guy still had his job. She started walking toward the executive elevators. Each step felt like trudging through wet concrete. The distance from her desk to the elevator bay was maybe 50 feet. It felt like 50 miles. Every cubicle she passed had the same scene. Minimized screens, averted eyes, shoulders shaking with suppressed laughter. Someone's coffee mug said, "World's okayest employee." Naomi would have killed to be okayest right now. She'd just set a new bar for worst. The elevator dinged as she approached. The doors opened like the entrance to her execution. She stepped inside and pressed 47, the executive floor, where corner offices overlooked Central Park and carpet cost more per square foot than her monthly rent, where Damien Cross ruled his empire from a penthouse suite with walls of windows and furniture that belonged in architectural magazines. The elevator began its climb. Each floor ticked by on the digital display. 25, 30, 35. Her reflection in the polished chrome doors looked pale, terrified, like a woman watching her career implode in real time. She had maybe 45 seconds to decide what to say. An apology, a resignation. Both seemed necessary and completely inadequate. "Mr. Cross, I sincerely apologize for the inappropriate message. I take full responsibility. Please accept my resignation, effective immediately. Professional, clean, dignified." Except there was no dignity left after "has the audacity to smell good" problem had been broadcast to 200 people. 40, 42, 45. The elevator slowed. 46. Naomi took a deep breath, tried to steady her shaking hands, failed completely. The elevator chimed softly, a pleasant sound that felt like a death knell. The door slid open, and standing directly in front of her, arms crossed over a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her car, tie perfectly knotted despite the late afternoon hour, expression completely and utterly unreadable, was Damien Cross himself. He'd been waiting for her. His dark eyes met hers. For one suspended moment, neither of them moved. The elevator doors started to close, and he caught them with one hand, holding them open with casual strength. "Ms. Smith." His voice was low, controlled, each syllable perfectly measured, dangerous in its calmness. "I believe we need to discuss your recent communication." Behind him, through the glass walls of the executive floor, she could see assistants frozen at their desks. Everyone pretending not to watch while absolutely watching everything. This was it. The moment her 3 years of 70-hour weeks, of proving herself in a male-dominated industry, of fighting for every promotion and every ounce of respect, came crashing down. All because she'd told the truth about how her boss looked in a suit. Naomi followed Damien Cross down the executive corridor in silence. Not the comfortable kind of silence. The kind that pressed against her eardrums and made every breath sound too loud. Her heels clicked against marble that probably cost more per square foot than her entire monthly salary. Floor-to-ceiling windows lined one side of the hallway, offering a view of Manhattan that should have been breathtaking, but currently just made her feel like she was walking the plank. Damien's office sat at the corner of the building. Of course it did. Corner offices were reserved for people who'd earned them through decades of ruthless business acumen, not people who'd just told the entire company their boss smelled good. He pushed open the double doors and held one for her. The gesture felt oddly polite, given that he was probably about to fire her. "After you, Miss Smith." She stepped inside and immediately understood why magazines did features on this space. The office was massive, easily the size of her entire apartment. Modern furniture in shades of charcoal and steel. Abstract art that probably had names she wouldn't recognize. Floor-to-ceiling windows on 2 walls offering views of Central Park and the city skyline. His desk was a sleek glass surface that looked like it had never seen clutter. Damien walked past her toward the windows. He stood with his back to her, hands in his pockets, looking out at the city. The afternoon sun caught the edges of his dark hair. His tie was loosened, she noticed, just slightly. The top button of his shirt undone. She'd never seen him anything less than perfectly put together. Even in 3-hour strategy meetings. He looked like he'd just stepped out of a GQ photo shoot. The silence stretched. Naomi's heart hammered against her ribs. Just say it. Get it over with. Tell her she's fired and let her leave with whatever microscopic shred of dignity remained. "Mr. Cross, 6'2", sharp suit-wearing problem." He turned from the window. "That's specific." Naomi's face burned. "I am so sorry. I was venting to my friend. I never meant for anyone else to hear it. I definitely never meant to let the entire company know you find me attractive. That's not..." She stumbled over her words. "I mean, professionally, you're difficult to work with. But personally, I'm a problem." The hint of amusement in his voice made everything worse. He wasn't angry. He was entertained. This was entertainment to him while her entire career burned down around her. Naomi straightened her shoulders. Fine. If he wanted to toy with her first, she'd at least maintain some dignity in her exit. "I'll have my resignation on your desk by end of day." "Don't." She blinked. "Excuse me?" Damien moved away from the windows, crossing the office to the seating area. Not the imposing desk where he usually conducted meetings. The leather sofa and chairs arranged around a low coffee table. Less formal. More intimate wasn't the right word, but it was the word that came to mind. He sat, gestured to the chair across from him. "Have a seat." "Mr. Cross, I don't think..." "That wasn't a request, Miss Smith." Naomi sat, perched really on the edge of the chair like she might need to bolt at any second. Damien leaned back. One ankle crossed over his knee. Relaxed. Comfortable. Like they were discussing quarterly projections instead of her catastrophic public humiliation. "I have a better idea," he said. "A better idea than me resigning?" "Much better." His dark eyes met hers, and something in his expression shifted. The amusement faded, replaced by something more serious, more calculated. "I have a problem, Mrs. Smith, and I believe you're the solution." Naomi's confusion must have shown on her face because the corner of his mouth quirked up. "Hear me out before you decide I've lost my mind." This wasn't the script. This wasn't how getting fired was supposed to go. You didn't get called to the CEO's office. Refused to fire you. and then tell you that you were the solution to some mysterious problem. I'm listening, she said carefully. Damien leaned forward, resting his forearms on his knees. The posture brought him closer, close enough that she caught the scent she'd mentioned in that damned voice memo. Something expensive, cedar, and something darker she couldn't identify. Focus, Naomi. Are you familiar with Virtue Tech? The question threw her. The Silicon Valley startup? The one we're acquiring? Potentially acquiring. $300 million deal. Would make us the dominant player in our market segment. He paused. If it goes through, I've seen the projections. It's a solid acquisition. The financials are solid. The technology is revolutionary. But the founders are... He seemed to choose his words carefully. Traditional. Family-oriented. Margaret and Robert Chen, born in Taiwan, built their company from their garage in Palo Alto. They care about legacy, values, work-life balance. Naomi still didn't understand what this had to do with her public embarrassment. Okay? They're hesitant about the acquisition because they're hesitant about me. Why? Damien's jaw tightened slightly. Because I'm exactly what you said in your voice memo. Focused on work to the exclusion of everything else. No family, no relationships, no life outside these walls. Understanding started to dawn. Naomi's eyes widened. They think you're too much like them when they started. Brilliant, driven, and headed for burnout. He stood, started pacing. Controlled energy that reminded her of a predator circling. Robert Chen had a heart attack at 42. Nearly died. It changed their perspective on what matters. They don't want to sell their life's work to someone who'll do what they did. Work themselves into an early grave. So what does that have to do with... Naomi stopped. Oh, indeed. Damien moved to his desk and picked up a folder. He returned to the seating area and placed it on the coffee table between them. The deal requires a 6-week partnership tour. New York, San Francisco, Miami, Chicago. Meeting the teams, touring facilities, getting to know each other's company cultures. He sat down again. The Chens want to meet my partner at each location. Assess whether I have the kind of life balance they value. But you don't have a partner. No, I've been single for 3 years, too busy building this company to date. His eyes held hers, which is exactly their concern. Naomi's brain was working overtime, trying to piece together where this was going and failing to believe the conclusion she was reaching. Mr. Cross, you can't possibly be suggesting 6 weeks, 4 cities, 10 scheduled appearances. He opened the folder, revealing a printed contract. You pose as my girlfriend. We convince the Chens that I have the personal stability they're looking for. The deal closes. Everyone wins. The room tilted slightly. Naomi gripped the arms of the chair. You want me to fake date you? I'm offering you a business arrangement with clearly defined parameters and substantial compensation. After I just humiliated myself in front of 200 people by calling you hot, which actually works in our favor. He had the audacity to look pleased about this. The whole company already thinks we have chemistry. Half of them probably think we're secretly involved anyway, after that voice memo. We're just confirming their suspicions. Naomi's laugh came out slightly hysterical. This is insane. This is business. This is insane business. Damien pulled a pen from his jacket pocket and set it on top of the contract. $75,000. Cash bonus, paid regardless of whether the deal closes. That's yours just for participating. Her student loans flashed through her mind. $68,000 of debt that followed her like a shadow. Her mother's medical bills that kept piling up. The rent-controlled apartment she might lose if her landlord found a legal way to evict her. Plus, Damien continued, a 2% equity stake in the Virtutech deal. If the acquisition goes through at $300 million, that's $6 million in equity. Your stake would be worth approximately $500,000 when it vests. Naomi's head spun. $500,000. She could pay off her loans, cover her mother's medical expenses, put a down payment on an actual apartment. She could breathe for the first time in years. And he wasn't done. Promotion to Senior Director of Marketing. Executive level position. Office on this floor. 20% salary increase. Full benefits package. By 30, she'd be a director. By 35, she could be a VP. The trajectory she'd been clawing toward for 3 years, handed to her on a silver platter. All expenses covered naturally. Wardrobe, travel, accommodations. You'll need to look the part. He gestured vaguely at her current outfit. Not unkindly, just matter of fact. Designer clothes, 5-star hotels, first-class flights. Everything you need to be convincing as the girlfriend of a billionaire CEO. For 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Starting in 72 hours. The timeline is tight, but that actually works for us. Creates urgency. Makes sense why we haven't gone public before now. Naomi's mind raced through the implications. The contract. What are the terms? He slid the folder across the table. Everything in writing. Professional NDA with legal protections for both parties. Clear boundaries regarding physical affection required for public appearances. Exit clause allowing either party to terminate with 48 hours' notice. She picked up the contract with shaking hands. The letterhead was from one of Manhattan's most prestigious law firms. This wasn't something he'd drawn up this afternoon. This was prepared, professional. He'd thought this through. How long have you been planning this? The Virtutech deal has been in the works for 6 months. The Chens made their concerns clear 3 months ago. I've been considering options since then. His expression was unreadable. Your voice memos simply presented an unexpected opportunity. You're using my humiliation as leverage. I'm offering you a solution that benefits us both. He leaned forward. You called me a problem, Miss Smith. Help me solve a bigger one. The audacity of it was almost impressive. Almost. This is insane, she repeated. Fake dating my boss after embarrassing myself company-wide. You've already convinced 200 people you're attracted to me. Convincing 2 more should be easy. Naomi flipped through the contract. The terms were actually fair. Separate hotel rooms. No expectation of intimacy. All physical affection limited to what would be appropriate in public. Hand-holding, brief kisses, couple behavior. Nothing that crossed lines she wasn't willing to cross. The compensation section made her breath catch. $75,000. Equity stake. Promotion. All spelled out in legal language that meant he couldn't back out. Why me? She finally asked. You could hire an actress. A professional who does this kind of thing. The Chens would see through that immediately. They're not stupid. Damien stood, moved to the windows again. They need to believe it's real, which means I need someone who already works here, someone who knows the company, someone who can talk intelligently about our work, someone who already has a documented attraction to you. That certainly doesn't hurt the narrative. Naomi looked at the contract again. $75,000. Her mother's medical bills. Her student loans. 3 years of 70-hour weeks. Of fighting for respect. Of proving she belonged in rooms where she was often the only woman, and always the only black woman. I need to think about it. You have 24 hours. Damien turned from the window. Decision by 9 a.m. tomorrow. The Chens expect to meet you this weekend. We need time to prepare our story, coordinate wardrobes, get our facts straight. Our story? How we met? How long we've been together? Why we kept it quiet? We need details, believable details. The Chens will ask questions. Naomi stood, still clutching the contract. This is the craziest thing anyone has ever asked me to do. Is that a no? That's a, I need to talk to my friend and possibly a therapist before I agree to fake date my boss for $500,000. Something that might have been respect flickered across Damien's face. Fair enough. He walked her to the door. As she reached for the handle, he spoke again. For what it's worth, Ms. Smith, I don't think you should be embarrassed about the voice memo. She turned, eyebrows raised. Really? It was honest. I respect honesty. The corner of his mouth lifted. Even when it's accidentally broadcast to 200 people. Naomi shook her head, caught between mortification and disbelief at how this day had turned out. Good night, Mr. Cross. Naomi, he said. She paused. If we're going to convince anyone we're a couple, you should probably start calling me Damien. The sound of her first name in his voice sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. She had 24 hours to decide if she'd fake date the man she'd just publicly admitted was unfairly attractive, or lose the opportunity that could change her life forever. Naomi sat on Serena Williams's worn but comfortable sofa in her Bed-Stuy apartment, holding a glass of wine like it was a lifeline. Let me get this straight. Serena, her best friend since their NYU days, sat cross-legged on the floor, dark braids piled on top of her head, eyes wide with disbelief. You accidentally sent a thirst trap voice memo about your boss to the entire company. Yes. Including your boss. Yes. And his response was, fake date me for money. $75,000 plus equity stake plus promotion. Serena threw her head back and laughed so hard she nearly spilled her wine. Girl, I cannot. This is literally Wattpad come to life. This doesn't happen in real life. I know. Naomi groaned and sank deeper into the sofa cushions. That's why I'm here. I need you to talk me out of this. Out of it. Serena looked at her like she'd grown a second head. I'm trying to talk you into it. Do you know what 2% of $300 million is? $6 million. Which means your stake is worth $500,000 when it vests. I know, he told me. Naomi took a long drink of wine. But that's not the point. That is absolutely the point. Naomi, you've been drowning in student loans since we graduated. Your mum's medical bills are piling up. You work 70-hour weeks and can barely afford your rent. Serena crawled closer, grabbing Naomi's knee for emphasis. This man is offering you a way out. A real way out. By lying to nice people about a fake relationship. By doing excellent marketing work, which is literally your job. Serena raised her eyebrows. You're selling a narrative. Creating a brand story. That's what you do every day for Titan's clients. This time, you're just the product. Naomi couldn't argue with that logic, even if she wanted to. She did spend her days crafting narratives and selling stories. This was just more personal. Okay, let's logic this through. Serena held up one finger. Is it legal? Yes. There's an NDA, contract, legal protections. Second finger. Is it safe? Physically? Yes. Emotionally? Naomi shook her head. That's where it gets complicated. Why? Because Serena... Naomi set down her wineglass. What if I catch real feelings? We're supposed to fake chemistry, but it might not be fake for me. Serena's expression softened. You've had a thing for this man since orientation, haven't you? I don't have a thing. Naomi, bestie, love of my life. You literally called him unfairly attractive and complained about how good he smells. That was venting. That was the truth. Serena moved to sit beside her on the sofa. You've been half in love with Damien Cross for 3 years. You just didn't want to admit it because he's your boss, and it was inappropriate and you're too professional for workplace crushes. Naomi opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. Serena wasn't wrong. She'd noticed Damien from day one. The way he commanded a room, his intelligence, how he actually listened when people spoke. Yes, he was gorgeous, but it was more than that. It was the whole package that made him dangerous. So what do? Naomi asked. Take the money and risk falling for someone who's paying me to pretend? Or, Serena said gently, take the money and see what happens. Maybe he's paying you to pretend, or maybe this is his excuse to spend time with you outside of work. You think he's interested? I think billionaire CEOs don't proposition their employees with $500,000 fake dating schemes unless there's something real underneath. Serena picked up the contract Naomi had brought. Did you read the boundaries section? Separate hotel rooms. No intimacy expectations. Public affection only. Exactly. He's protecting you. Setting clear limits. If this was just about the deal, he could have hired an escort or an actress. He chose you. Serena tapped the contract. For what it's worth, I think he's been watching you for a while. Naomi's heart did an uncomfortable flip. Why would you think that? Because men like Damien Cross don't notice random voice memos from junior staff. But he noticed yours. He was ready with a solution within hours. You don't think that's sus? Naomi hadn't thought about it that way. But now that Serena mentioned it, her phone buzzed on the coffee table. Both women leaned forward to look. Damien Cross. Decision deadline, tomorrow, 9 a.m. Sleep on it. DC. See? Serena pointed at the screen. He's texting you at 9 p.m. From his personal phone. That's not boss behavior, that's interested man behavior. Or that's billionaire closing a deal behavior. Can't it be both? Naomi picked up her phone, staring at the message. The man was asking her to fake a relationship for 6 weeks. To travel with him, spend time with him, pretend to be in love with him, and pay her handsomely for the privilege. It was crazy. It was also the opportunity of a lifetime. You've been working yourself to death for 3 years, Serena said quietly. You've earned this promotion 10 times over. Your mom needs help with those medical bills. And real talk? You deserve to see what it's like to be with a man who sees how brilliant you are. Even if he's paying me? Especially if he's paying you. Means he values your time, your skills, your presence. Serena raised her wineglass. Take the money, Naomi. Take the promotion. Take the 6 weeks with a man who makes your pulse race. And if you fall in love with a billionaire... She grinned. That's a champagne problem, and I'll help you drink through it. Naomi clinked her glass against Serena's, but her stomach was still in knots. She had until 9 a.m. tomorrow to decide if she was brave enough, foolish enough, or desperate enough to say yes. The Gramercy Tavern was exactly the kind of restaurant Naomi had only read about in New York Magazine's best of lists. Exposed brick, soft lighting, the kind of ambiance that cost money to create. The host had led her to a private dining room in the back, away from the main restaurant, where privacy was guaranteed and discretion was assumed. Damien was already there, sitting at a table for two, reviewing documents. He looked up when she entered. Naomi. He stood, ever the gentleman. I wasn't sure you'd come. She was wearing her best dress, the one she saved for important client meetings and industry events. Navy blue, professional off the rack from Nordstrom Rack. It had cost her $200 2 years ago, and she'd considered it an investment. Looking at Damien in his dark suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, she felt the class difference like a physical weight. I'm here, she said simply. He pulled out her chair. The gesture was old-fashioned and unexpectedly charming. Wine? Please. He poured from a bottle that was already breathing on the table. Something red and probably expensive. Naomi took a sip and tried not to let her appreciation show on her face. It was the best wine she'd ever tasted. So, Damien said, settling back into his seat. Your decision? Naomi reached into her purse and pulled out the contract. She'd read it 3 times last night. Once alone, once with Serena, and once more at 2 a.m. when she couldn't sleep. Every clause, every provision, every contingency. It was fair, more than fair, almost suspiciously fair. Yes, she said. I'll do it. Something flickered across Damien's face. Relief, satisfaction. It was gone too quickly to identify. Good. He pulled out his own copy of the contract. Let's go over the details. They spent the next 20 minutes reviewing terms. 6 weeks, 4 cities, 10 scheduled appearances, including galas, business dinners, and casual meetings. The backstory they'd agreed on. They met at an industry conference 4 months ago, discovered chemistry, decided to keep it quiet to avoid workplace gossip. Required affection, Damien said, tapping that section. Hand-holding, brief kisses, couple behavior. Nothing that crosses professional boundaries, but enough to be convincing. I read it. I want to make sure you're comfortable with... I'm comfortable. Naomi met his eyes. Are you? He held her gaze. Yes. Then let's talk boundaries. What are your limits? My limits? You set limits in the contract for me. What are yours? Damien seemed caught off guard by the question. I haven't thought about it. Think about it now. He was quiet for a moment. No real feelings, he finally said. This is business. Clean separation between the arrangement and reality. Agreed. Naomi raised her glass. No real feelings. 6 weeks of excellent acting. Then back to normal. Back to normal. Damien's expression was unreadable as he clinked his glass against hers. They signed the contracts. 2 copies. 1 for each of them. Naomi's hand was surprisingly steady as she wrote her signature on the line. There. Done. She'd just agreed to fake date her boss for $500,000. We should practice, Damien said as the waiter cleared their signing ceremony away and brought appetizers. Practice what? Being a couple. Looking comfortable together. In public, we need to be convincing. Naomi's pulse quickened. What did you have in mind? He stood and moved to her side of the table, offered his hand. Dance with me. There's no music. Humor me. Naomi placed her hand in his. The contact was electric, exactly like she'd feared. His hand was warm, strong, with calluses she hadn't expected. Did billionaire CEOs have calluses? What did he do in his free time that created calluses? Damien pulled her gently to her feet. In the small private room, they had maybe 6 feet of space, enough to sway. He placed his other hand on her waist, and Naomi tried to remember how to breathe. "When we're together," he said quietly, "you need to look at me like I'm the only person in the room." "That won't be hard." The words slipped out before she could stop them. "I'm an excellent actress." His thumb traced small circles on her hip, a gesture so subtle she almost thought she imagined it. "Are you acting right now?" Naomi's breath caught. The question hung between them, loaded with implications she wasn't ready to examine. She could feel his heartbeat through his shirt, could smell that cedar scent that had haunted her since the voice memo. "Are you?" she countered. His dark eyes held hers. Neither of them moved. Neither of them answered. The moment broke when the waiter knocked softly before entering with their main courses. They stepped apart, suddenly very interested in their meals and absolutely not interested in examining what had just happened. After the waiter left, Damien raised his glass. "To convincing performances." Naomi lifted hers. "To 6 weeks of excellent acting." Their glasses clinked. Wine flowed. Conversation shifted to logistics, schedules, travel arrangements, safe topics, professional topics. But Naomi's hand still tingled where he'd touched it. And as their glasses clinked, she wondered if the hardest part wouldn't be convincing others they were in love, but convincing herself it wasn't real. Bergdorf Goodman occupied prime real estate on Fifth Avenue, the kind of store Naomi walked past but never entered. Window shopping was free. Actually, shopping required trust funds or corporate expense accounts. Today she had something better. Damien Cross's credit card and instructions to spare no expense. The personal shopper, a woman named Vivienne, who looked like she'd stepped out of French Vogue, had already assembled a collection of designer clothes in a private suite on the top floor. Dresses, slacks, blazers, shoes, accessories. Everything Naomi would need to look the part of a billionaire's girlfriend. "This dress is more than my rent," Naomi said, holding up a black cocktail dress with a discreet Chanel label. Vivian smiled serenely. "Mr. Cross was very clear about the budget. Consider this your costume. Every role needs the right wardrobe." Those were almost Damien's exact words from dinner last night. Had he prepped Vivian on what to say? Naomi tried on dress after dress, outfit after outfit. Each one felt like putting on someone else's skin. Someone wealthier. Someone who belonged in penthouses and private jets. "Try the green one," Vivian suggested, holding up an emerald silk gown that probably cost more than Naomi's college textbooks combined. It was stunning, deep emerald with a neckline that was daring without being inappropriate. The kind of dress that made a statement at galas and charity events. Naomi stepped into the dressing room and slipped it on. When she emerged, Vivian actually gasped. "Oh yes, that's the one." "You think?" "I know." The dressing room door opened. Naomi turned, expecting Vivian's assistant, and found Damien instead. He stopped dead. Just stopped. Stared at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "I thought you were at the office," Naomi said, suddenly self-conscious under his gaze. "I was." He moved closer, hands in his pockets. His eyes traveled from her face down the dress and back up again. Not leering, appreciating. I wanted to make sure everything was going well. Everything's fine. I can see that. His voice had gone slightly rough. Vivian, sensing an opportunity, stepped forward. Mr. Cross, what do you think of this one? Damien's eyes never left Naomi. That's the one. Wear that to the San Francisco gala. It's very expensive. It's perfect. He cleared his throat, seemed to collect himself. Get it. And anything else Vivian recommends? Naomi turned back to the mirror. The woman looking back at her was someone she barely recognized. Someone who wore $1,000 dresses and dated billionaires. Someone who belonged in this world. Except she didn't. Not really. This was all costume. All performance. In the reflection, she caught Damien still watching her. The expression on his face wasn't professional. Wasn't distant. Wasn't the CEO looking at an employee. It was something else entirely. His phone buzzed. He pulled it out, checked the screen, and the spell broke. Flights confirmed for Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Car will pick you up at 7. I'll be ready. Good. He moved toward the door, then paused. Naomi? Yes? You look... He seemed to struggle for words. You're going to be very convincing. He left before she could respond. Vivian reappeared with more options. But Naomi was still staring at the door where Damien had been standing. In 30 hours, she'd board a private jet with him to San Francisco. In 36 hours, she'd meet the Chens and begin the biggest performance of her life. 6 weeks of playing the role of Damien Cross's girlfriend. 6 weeks of hand-holding and stolen glances and pretending what she felt wasn't real. She had a feeling the emerald dress was the least dangerous thing she'd put on in the next 6 weeks. Damien's penthouse in Tribeca was nothing like Naomi expected. She'd imagined something cold, sterile. The kind of bachelor pad that screamed money but lacked warmth. Instead, she found herself in a space that felt lived in, comfortable. Books lined built-in shelves. Art that looked collected rather than curated hung on exposed brick walls. A well-worn leather chair sat by the windows overlooking the Hudson River. Make yourself at home, Damien called from the kitchen, where he was making coffee. Flight briefing documents are on the table. We should review them before tomorrow. Naomi set her bag down and wandered toward the bookshelves while he worked. Marketing textbooks, business strategy. Fiction she recognized from bestseller lists, and photographs. Lots of photographs. That's when she saw it. A frame photo tucked between 2 books, not prominently displayed but not hidden either. Just there. A group of teenagers and young adults in matching volunteer t-shirts standing in front of a building with a faded sign. Queensbridge Youth Center. Naomi's heart stopped. She picked up the frame with shaking hands. The teenagers looked young, hopeful, some trying too hard to look tough for the camera. And there, in the back row, a girl of maybe 16. Awkward braids, oversized hoodie, arms crossed defensively. Standing slightly apart from the group, like she wasn't sure she belonged. Naomi recognized her immediately. Because that girl was her. Next to the group, slightly off to the side, stood a young man of about 20. Tall, lean, still growing into his features. Dark hair, serious eyes, volunteer t-shirt stretched across broad shoulders. Damien. 15 years younger, but unmistakably Damien. When were you going to tell me? His voice came from directly behind her. Naomi spun around. The coffee in his hands, the casual posture, the calm expression. He'd known she'd find the photo. He'd wanted her to find it. Tell you what? Her voice came out sharper than intended. Damien set the coffee mugs on a side table and moved closer. Not threatening, just there, present. His eyes on hers. I know who you are, Naomi. I've always known. The room tilted. What? Queensbridge Youth Centre, 15 years ago. You came in every Tuesday and Thursday after school, sat in the back of my mentorship group, refused to participate for the first month. Memories flooded back. The youth centre. The program her guidance counsellor had forced her to attend. The college volunteers who tried too hard to relate. One volunteer in particular, who hadn't pushed, hadn't forced conversation, just let her be. You were there for 3 months before you finally spoke up. Damien's voice was quiet, careful. You said you were wasting everyone's time because you'd never amount to anything anyway. Naomi's throat tightened. She remembered saying that, remembered meaning it, remembered being 16 and angry and convinced the world had already decided her future. I told you that you were brilliant, that I'd never met a 16-year-old who analyzed marketing campaigns the way you did, that you had a gift. He paused. You didn't believe me. I was a kid in a housing project with a single mother and no prospects. You were extraordinary, are extraordinary. Damien's jaw tightened. I followed your career, Naomi. NYU scholarship, Dean's List, internships at top agencies. When you graduated, I made sure our HR department saw your resume. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. You've been orchestrating my entire career? No. He stepped closer. You earned every promotion, every achievement, every success. I never influenced your reviews, your projects, your advancement. I stayed away precisely because I wanted you to succeed on your own merit. Then why hire me at all? Because you were the best candidate. Because 3 years ago, you applied for a position you were overqualified for, because no one else would take a chance on you. Because I remembered the brilliant 16-year-old who thought she'd never amount to anything, and I wanted to prove her wrong. You should have told me. When? Day 1? Welcome to Titan Industries. By the way, I mentored you 15 years ago and have been tracking your career. His voice held an edge. You would have doubted everything, every promotion, every success. You would have wondered if you'd earned it, or if I'd handed it to you. He was right. She hated that he was right. I've been watching someone I believed in prove me right, Damien said quietly. Not controlling, not manipulating, just watching you become exactly who I knew you could be. Naomi's emotions warred inside her. Betrayal, confusion, something that felt dangerously close to being touched. Anger that he'd kept this secret. Wonder that he'd remembered her at all. Is that what this arrangement is about? She gestured at the space between them. Some kind of mentor-protégé fantasy? Poor girl from Queens made good. This arrangement is about closing a deal. His eyes flashed. But yes, I chose you specifically, because I've spent 3 years watching you command boardrooms and thinking about what it would be like to have you look at me as something other than an obstacle to overcome. Before she could respond, his phone rang. Damien pulled it from his pocket, jaw tight. Car service. They're confirming pickup time. Tell them we're ready. In 3 hours, flights at 8 a.m. He looked at her. We should finish reviewing the briefing documents. Naomi set the photograph down carefully. After you tell me everything, every detail, why you were at that youth centre, what you remember. What you expected to happen when you hired me. Fair enough. Damien picked up the coffee mugs again. But Naomi, this doesn't change the arrangement. The contract stands. 6 weeks. Business. She had 3 hours to decide if she could trust the man who'd quietly shaped 15 years of her life. 3 hours to figure out if his interest in her was patronizing, genuine, or something far more complicated than either of them wanted to admit. The private jet was smaller than Naomi expected. More intimate. Leather seat that faced each other, a table between them covered with briefing documents neither of them were reading. 3 hours since the photograph. 3 hours since her world had tilted sideways. 3 hours of silence broken only by the engine's hum and the flight attendant's occasional offers of refreshments. Damien sat across from her, laptop open but ignored, staring out the window at clouds drifting past. His jaw was tight. He'd been quiet since they'd boarded, giving her space she wasn't sure she wanted. "Tell me about the foster care system," Naomi finally said. He looked at her, surprised. "What? You said I reminded you of yourself. I want to know why." Damien closed his laptop, leaned back in his seat. For a long moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. 6 homes, between the ages of 8 and 18, he said finally. Some were fine, some weren't. None of them were permanent. You learn quickly not to get attached, not to hope for more than the next meal, the next bed, the next school. Naomi's chest tightened. She'd known he was successful, driven, brilliant. She hadn't known he'd come from nothing. Less than nothing. "I aged out at 18. Most kids in the system do. No family, no support. The state gives you a bus ticket and wishes you luck." His voice was matter-of-fact, but she heard the edge underneath. "I would have been another statistic if not for my social worker, Miss Patricia Hayes. She believed I could do more than survive. She helped me get a scholarship, helped me apply to colleges, taught me how to navigate systems that weren't built for kids like me." The youth center? Was her idea. She said I needed to give back, pay forward what she'd given me. He smiled slightly. "I thought it was pointless. What could I teach teenagers when I was barely surviving myself? But you did it anyway." "But I did it anyway." His eyes found hers. And then this angry 16-year-old girl showed up, brilliant, furious at the world, convinced she'd never amount to anything because that's what she'd been told her whole life. Naomi looked away. "I was difficult. You were surviving, just like I had been." Damien's voice softened. "When you said you'd never amount to anything, I heard myself at 16. Same words, same resignation. And I couldn't let you disappear like so many talented kids do. Your social worker, Miss Hayes, what happened to her?" "Cancer. She died when I was 22. Never got to see what I built. Never got to know that her faith in a foster kid paid off." His hands tightened on his armrests. "I couldn't save her, but I could make sure you didn't disappear. That someone else got the chance she gave me." Understanding washed over Naomi. Not manipulation. Trauma. He'd been trying to save his younger self by helping her. "I'm not your redemption project," she said quietly. "No, you're not." He met her eyes. "You're the woman I have been half in love with for 3 years. The youth center just explains why I noticed you in the first place." Before she could respond, the pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. "Beginning our descent into San Francisco. Please return to your seats and fasten your seatbelts." They were already seated. Already belted. But the interruption broke the moment clean. "The Chens," Damien said, shifting back into business mode. "They're meeting us at the restaurant in Palo Alto. Flea Street Cafe. Farm to table. Robert's choice. What do they know about us? That we met 4 months ago. That we've kept it quiet. That this is our first trip together, as a public couple." He pulled out his phone, reviewing notes. "Margaret is the visionary. Robert handles operations. They're traditional, but not conservative. They value authenticity above all else." "Then lying to them should be easy," Naomi muttered. Damien looked at her sharply. "Having second thoughts?" "Having all the thoughts." The jet touched down smoothly. A car was waiting on the tarmac. The Four Seasons Silicon Valley was a brief, quiet ride through palm tree-lined streets that felt nothing like New York. Their rooms were adjoining. Of course they were. Separate, but connected, just like the contract specified. "We have 2 hours before dinner," Damien said as bellhops delivered their luggage. "Get some rest. I'll knock when it's time." Naomi nodded and disappeared into her room before he could see the conflict on her face. Flea Street. Cafe was exactly the kind of restaurant that screamed Northern California. Reclaimed wood, Edison bulbs. A menu featuring vegetables Naomi had never heard of, and wine from vineyards she'd definitely never visited. Margaret and Robert Chen were waiting at a corner table. Margaret, mid-50s, with silver-streaked hair and warm eyes. Robert, slightly older, with reading glasses pushed up on his head and smile lines that suggested he laughed often. "Damien!" Margaret stood, pulling him into a hug that seemed to surprise him. "And you must be Naomi. We've heard so much about you." Naomi shook her hand, acutely aware of the scrutiny behind Margaret's kindness. These were people who'd built a $300 million company from their garage. They didn't miss details. "It's wonderful to meet you both," Naomi said, sliding into the role. "Damien's told me about Virtutech. The platform you've built is revolutionary." "You're familiar with our work?" Robert asked, interested. "I handle marketing strategy for tech acquisitions at Titan. I've been studying your user engagement metrics. The retention rates are remarkable." The conversation flowed. Business talk melted into personal talk. Robert told a story about their early days in Palo Alto, eating ramen and coding until dawn. Margaret described their first major client, the panic and elation when the contract came through. Under the table, Damien's hand found Naomi's. The touch was electric, grounding. His thumb traced circles on her palm while he discussed merger timelines and cultural integration. Was this performance or real? "So how did you two meet?" Margaret asked, leaning forward with genuine curiosity. Naomi and Damien exchanged a glance. They'd rehearsed this. "Industry conference," Naomi said. 6 months ago, Chicago. I was presenting on consumer behavior analytics, and someone in the audience kept asking the smartest, most annoying questions." "Annoying?" Damien's eyebrow raised. "Challenging. You challenged every assumption I made. Because your presentation was brilliant. I wanted to see how you handled pushback." His eyes held hers. "She destroyed my arguments with data I couldn't refute. And then he bought me a drink to apologize for being difficult. And then I couldn't stop thinking about the woman who'd made me reconsider everything I thought I knew about consumer psychology." The story flowed naturally, too naturally. Each detail building on the last, shared smiles. Inside jokes they'd actually created over 3 years and working together, now repurposed as romantic history. Margaret watched them with a soft smile. You two have something real. I can tell. Guilt twisted in Naomi's stomach. These were good people. Kind people. And she was lying to their faces. How long before we hear wedding bells? Robert asked, grinning. Pattern interrupt. Neither of them had prepared for that question. We're taking it slow, Damien said smoothly. Building something that lasts takes time. His eyes were on Naomi when he said it. Was he talking about the fake relationship? Or something else? After dinner, back at the hotel, Naomi stood in her room staring at the adjoining door. On the other side, she could hear Damien moving around. Water running. The soft sound of a phone call ending. She knocked softly on the connecting door. It opened immediately. He'd changed into comfortable clothes, jeans and a t-shirt she'd never seen him wear. He looked younger, less CEO, more human. Can't sleep, he asked. Can't turn my brain off. He stepped back, inviting her in. His suite was identical to hers, but felt different somehow. Lived in already. A book open on the nightstand, his laptop still on. They sat on opposite ends of the sofa, not touching. Careful. I'm sorry, he said, for not telling you about the youth center earlier. You deserved to know. Why now? Why tell me at all? Because if we're doing this, I want it built on honesty, at least between us. He ran a hand through his hair. Everything I told you was true. I followed your career because I believed in you. I hired you because you were extraordinary. I proposed this arrangement because I needed a solution, and you were perfect for it. And because I've spent 3 years watching you command boardrooms and wondering what it would be like to have you look at me as something other than an obstacle. Naomi's breath caught. Damien! I don't know what's real anymore either, he admitted. I don't know if this started as business and became something else, or if it was always something else and I was just too much of a coward to admit it. This feeling right here? Naomi's voice was barely above a whisper. This is the realest thing I've felt in 15 years. The words hung between them. Raw, honest, terrifying. Damien reached across the space. Not grabbing, offering. Naomi placed her hand in his. They sat like that for a long time, connected by nothing more than intertwined fingers and the understanding that whatever this was, it had stopped being fake somewhere between New York and here. The South Beach Gala was exactly the kind of event Naomi had only seen in movies. Art Deco hotel, ocean view, women in designer gowns that cost more than cars, men in tuxedos that fit like they were born wearing them. Naomi wore the emerald dress. Damien wore a tuxedo that made her forget how to form coherent thoughts. You're staring, he murmured as they entered the ballroom. You're stare-worthy. His hand tightened on her waist. Careful, Miss Smith. Someone might think you're actually attracted to me. Wouldn't that be tragic? Photographers captured them on the red carpet. Society reporters asked questions about their relationship. Naomi smiled and deflected, playing the role of private girlfriend who preferred to stay out of the spotlight. Inside, champagne flowed. String quartet played. Margaret and Robert held court, introducing them to Virtutech investors and potential partners. They're wonderful together, Margaret said to Naomi during a quiet moment. You and Damien. I can see the chemistry. We're still figuring it out, Naomi admitted. That wasn't a lie. The best relationships are the ones where you keep figuring it out. Robert and I have been married 32 years, still learning new things about each other. Margaret's eyes were kind. How did you know he was the one? The question caught Naomi off guard. This was improvisation. No script. No prepared answer. He saw me when I didn't see myself, she said slowly. The truth. Not about romance, but about something deeper. I thought I knew who I was, what I was capable of. He showed me I was wrong, that I could be more. Margaret squeezed her hand. Hold on to that. Men who see us clearly are rare. Later, Naomi found herself on a balcony overlooking the ocean. The party continued inside, but she needed air, needed space to think. The waves crashed against the beach. Stars competed with Miami's light pollution. Salt air and distant music, and the weight of too many lies told to too many kind people. Running away, she turned. Damien stood in the doorway, tie loosened, jacket draped over his arm. The most relaxed she'd seen him at a formal event. Just thinking. He joined her at the railing, close enough to touch, not touching. About how good Margaret and Robert are, how much they care about their company's future, how we're lying to them. We're giving them what they need to feel comfortable with the acquisition. We're manipulating them. We're performing. Like you said, it's marketing. But his voice lacked conviction. They stood in silence. Ocean breeze, night air. The space between them charged with everything they weren't saying. I have everything, Damien said suddenly. Empire, success, wealth. More money than I'll spend in 3 lifetimes. Power, influence, respect. Naomi waited. This felt important. But I'm surrounded by people and completely alone. His hands tightened on the railing. People want something from me. Access, money, favors. No one cares about Damien. They care about the CEO, the billionaire, the guy who can make their problems disappear or their dreams come true. That must be exhausting. It's isolating. He turned to face her. Do you know what it's like to be in a room full of people and feel completely invisible? Yes. Naomi's voice was soft. Every room I walk into, I'm waiting for someone to realize I don't belong. That I'm just a girl from Queensbridge pretending to be someone important. Imposter syndrome is my constant companion. You're not an imposter. Tell that to the voice in my head that says I got here because a man I didn't remember gave me opportunities I didn't earn. Damien moved closer. His hand found her waist. Not possessive, gentle. You're not pretending. You're transforming every space you enter. Every boardroom, every meeting, every conversation. You make people think differently. That's not pretending. That's power. Naomi looked up at him. His face was inches away. The ocean breeze carried his scent. That cedar and something darker that had haunted her since the voice memo. Damien, I know this was supposed to be fake. His other hand came up to cup her face. I know we signed contracts and established boundaries and promised to keep it business. We did. But this stopped being fake somewhere between New York and here, didn't it? Naomi's breath caught. Yes. Tell me I'm not alone in this. Tell me you feel it too. It was never fake for me. The confession tumbled out. I've been half in love with you since orientation. The voice memo wasn't a joke. It was the truth I'd been hiding for 3 years. His eyes darkened. Naomi, Patton interrupted. His phone buzzed insistently. Damien cursed, checked the screen. Business crisis, the Singapore office. I need to take this. Go. He didn't move immediately. just stood there, hands still on her face, looking at her like he was memorizing the moment. "We're not done with this conversation," he said. "I know." He kissed her forehead, quick and chaste, and disappeared inside to handle whatever crisis couldn't wait. Naomi stayed on the balcony, heart pounding, knowing that whatever they'd started was barreling toward a conclusion neither of them were prepared for. The storm rolled in off Lake Michigan, like a living thing. Thunder that shook the windows of the Peninsula Hotel. Lightning that turned the Chicago skyline into a strobe light. Rain that hammered against glass in sheets. Dinner with the Chens had been celebratory. The Virtue Tech deal was 95% complete. Just final paperwork remained. Robert had toasted to new partnerships and bright futures. Margaret had hugged them both, tears in her eyes, talking about legacy and trust. Naomi's guilt had never felt heavier. Now, at midnight, she stood in Damien's suite, ostensibly reviewing final contract terms. In reality, neither of them had looked at the documents spread across the dining table in the last hour. "Contract ends in 72 hours, Naomi said, watching rain streak down the windows. "What happens then?" Damien was at the bar, pouring whiskey into 2 glasses. He'd shed his jacket, rolled up his sleeves. The storm outside matched something in his eyes. "What do you want to happen?" I asked first. He crossed to where she stood, handed her a glass. "I don't want it to end. The contract or any of it. This. Us. Whatever we're calling it." He took a long drink. "I've been half in love with you for 3 years, Naomi. That voice memo? It didn't create anything new. It just gave me the excuse I needed to spend time with you outside those office walls." Her heart hammered. "So this whole arrangement was selfish. Completely. Utterly selfish." He set his glass down. "I needed to close the Virtue Tech deal, but I also needed an excuse to be near you, to touch you, to pretend for 6 weeks that you were mine. You could have just asked me out. Could I? You worked for me. I was your boss. There were rules, policies, power dynamics that made anything real impossible." His voice roughened. "But a fake relationship, that had boundaries, contract terms, an end date, that felt safe. Except it wasn't fake. Not for 1 second." He moved closer. "Every touch, every glance, every moment we've shared, real. All of it." Naomi set her own glass down with shaking hands. "We agreed. No real feelings. Clean separation." I lied. He cupped her face in both hands. "I've been lying since we signed that contract. Maybe since the day I hired you. Damien, tell me to stop. Tell me this is just business and we walk away in 3 days and never speak of it again." His forehead touched hers. "Give me an out." She should. She absolutely should. This was her boss. This was a contract. This was supposed to be fake, but it had never been fake. Not for either of them. "I can't," Naomi whispered. "I can't tell you to stop because I don't want you to." The last thread of control snapped. She kissed him first, claimed it, made it her choice, her agency, her decision to cross every line they'd drawn. He responded immediately, hands in her hair, mouth desperate on hers, tasting like whiskey and promises and 3 years of wanting. They stumbled toward the sofa. Rain pounded against windows. Thunder shook the building. The storm outside matched the one inside, building and building until fade to black. Morning light filtered through curtains they'd never closed. Naomi woke, wrapped in Damien's arms. His heartbeat steady beneath her ear. For a moment, she let herself believe this was real, permanent, something that could last beyond the contract's expiration. She felt him wake, the change in his breathing, the slight tension that entered his body. "Morning," he murmured against her hair. "Morning." They lay there, neither moving, neither wanting to break the spell. His phone rang on the nightstand. Damien groaned. "Ignore it," Naomi said. "Can't. It's the COO. Probably about the Virtue Tech signing today." He reached for it. "Give me 2 minutes." He thought she was asleep when he took the call. She kept her breathing steady, eyes closed, body relaxed against his. "Status?" His voice was low. "Professional. Successful. Virtue Tech signing this afternoon. Deal's done." A pause. Listening. "The arrangement? Contract ends tomorrow. We'll handle it cleanly." Naomi's heart stopped. She doesn't need to know anything more than what's in the contract. Clean break. Professional distance maintained. The words hit like ice water. "Yes. Understand. The relationship was necessary for the deal. Once it's signed, we return to normal operating procedures." He was talking about her like a business transaction, like she was another line item on a contract. "I'll handle it. Thanks for the update." He hung up, leaned down to kiss her forehead, still thinking she was asleep. "I'll be right back." The bathroom door closed. Water ran. Naomi lay there, frozen, replaying every word. Clean break. Professional distance. The relationship was necessary for the deal. Last night. His confession. The desperate kisses. The way he'd held her like she mattered. All of it. Strategy. She got up quietly, found her clothes scattered across the suite, dressed quickly, efficiently, hands shaking. Was she stupid for believing? For thinking a billionaire CEO could actually fall for the girl from Queensbridge? For imagining last night was anything more than excellent acting? She had 24 hours left on the contract, and she'd spend them protecting what was left of her heart. Naomi had perfected the art of avoiding Damien Cross 3 days back in New York. 3 days of arriving early, leaving late, timing her movements to miss him in hallways. 3 days of responding to his texts with professional brevity and declining his calls with fabricated meetings. The Virtue Tech deal had closed. $300 million. Front page of the Wall Street Journal. Titan Industries stock had jumped 12%. Damien's crowning achievement. And Naomi couldn't look at him without remembering that phone call. Clean break, professional distance. The relationship was necessary for the deal. Her office phone rang. Internal extension. HR. "Mrs. Smith, this is Patricia Hernandez. I need you to come to the HR conference room immediately." The tone wasn't friendly. Naomi's stomach dropped. "Is there a problem?" "We'll discuss it when you arrive." She walked to HR on autopilot. The 23rd floor to the 15th. Each step felt heavier than the last. Patricia Hernandez waited with 2 members of the legal team. The setup screamed serious trouble. "Mr. Smith, please sit." Patricia's face was professionally blank. "We've received an anonymous complaint regarding an inappropriate relationship between yourself and CEO Damien Cross." The room tilted. "I don't understand." "Our company maintains a strict anti-fraternization policy. Romantic relationships between executives and their direct reports are explicitly prohibited." Patricia slid a folder across the table. "We have substantial documentation. Travel records showing you shared accommodations during the Virtue Tech partnership tour. Photographs from the Miami Gala. Multiple witness statements from colleagues." Naomi's mouth went dry. "We had separate hotel rooms." "Adjoining rooms, Ms. Smith." and according to hotel records, only one bed was used in the Chicago Peninsula suite. Patricia's tone remained neutral. I'm not here to judge, but company policy is clear. When a romantic relationship exists between an executive and subordinate, one party must transfer divisions or resign. You're firing me? We're requiring one of you to leave your current position. Either you transfer to a non-reporting role, or Mr. Cross steps down, or one of you resigns entirely. This is insane. The legal counsel spoke up. There's an additional complication, Mrs. Smith. The Virtue Tech founders specifically cited your relationship with Mr. Cross as a deciding factor in the acquisition. If they learn the relationship was fabricated to close the deal, they can void the contract. $300 million. The company's stock price. Hundreds of jobs, all at risk. Understanding crashed over her. So, if we admit it was fake, the company faces fraud allegations and deal cancellation. If we admit it's real, anti-fraternization policy requires separation. There's no good option. Who filed the complaint? Patricia hesitated. It was anonymous, but the documentation came from Marcus Bennett's office in VP Operations. Marcus Bennett, Damien's rival for the board's favor. The man who'd been passed over for promotion twice because Damien's vision kept winning. He set us up. That's speculation, the legal counsel said carefully. But yes, Mr. Bennett does stand to gain significantly if either you or Mr. Cross leaves the company. How much time do we have? 48 hours to decide who's leaving. We need this resolved before it becomes a board-level issue. Naomi stood on shaking legs. I need to think. Miss Smith. Patricia's voice stopped her at the door. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. You're exceptional at your job. This situation is unfortunate. Unfortunate. What a bloodless word for career demolition. Naomi walked toward the elevators in a daze. As she passed the COO's office, she heard voices. The door was slightly ajar. Damien's voice. She'd recognize it anywhere. I'll handle Naomi. She'll resign quietly. Her feet stopped moving. You're certain? The COO's gravelly voice. She won't fight this. She's practical. She'll understand it's necessary. Better her than the entire C-suite restructure if I step down. And the relationship? Was what it needed to be to close the deal. She knew what she was signing up for. Naomi's vision blurred. She pressed her back against the wall, forcing herself to breathe. Was what it needed to be. Not real, not love, just necessary, just business. Chicago, the storm. His hands in her hair. His confession against her skin. All of it. Strategy. She'd been so stupid. Believing a billionaire could actually care about the girl from Queensbridge. Thinking last night meant something more than a calculated move in a corporate chess game. She pushed away from the wall and walked to the elevators with her head high and her heart in pieces. 48 hours until she was forced out. But she wouldn't give him the satisfaction. She'd resign first. On her terms. With her dignity intact. If Damien Cross wanted her gone, he'd have to live with the knowledge that she'd walked away, not waited to be pushed. Naomi's resignation letter sat on her laptop screen, cursor blinking at the end of the final paragraph. Professional, dignified, effective immediately. Dear Board of Directors, please accept my resignation from Titan Industries, effective immediately. I appreciate the opportunities I've been given and wish the company continued success. Sincerely, Naomi Smith Short. Cold. Exactly what the situation required. This is insane. Serena paced across Naomi's small living room, wineglass in hand. You're just going to let him win? I'm not letting anyone win. I'm leaving on my terms. Your terms? Naomi, you're running away. I'm protecting myself. Naomi's voice cracked. I fell for it, Serena. All of it. The arrangement. The confessions. Chicago. I actually believed he cared about me. What if he does? Then why did I hear him tell the COO he'd handle me? That I'd resign quietly? That the relationship was just what it needed to be for the deal? Serena opened her mouth to respond when someone pounded on the door. Not a polite knock. A desperate hammering that made them both jump. Naomi! Damien's voice, muffled through the door. I know you're in there. Open up. Naomi's heart lurched. Go away. Not until you talk to me. We have nothing to talk about. I'm resigning tomorrow. You get what you want. More pounding. That's not what I want. Let me in. Serena looked at Naomi. You have to face him eventually. I don't have to do anything. Naomi, please. Damien's voice changed. Desperate. Raw. 5 minutes. Just give me 5 minutes. Serena moved to the door before Naomi could stop her. If you hurt her more than you already have, I will destroy you, billionaire or not. She opened the door. Damien looked wrecked, tie gone, jacket missing. Hair disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it for hours. Dark circles under his eyes. This wasn't the polished CEO she'd seen in boardrooms. This was a man barely holding it together. Naomi. He stepped inside, eyes finding her immediately. We need to talk. There's nothing to say. I'm resigning. Problem solved. Like hell you are. Excuse me? You're not resigning. I am. Naomi stood, anger flooding through her. Don't do that. Don't pretend to be noble now. I heard you, Damien, in the COO's office. I'll handle Naomi. She'll resign quietly. His face went white. You heard that conversation? Every word. She's practical. She'll understand it's necessary. That I knew what I was signing up for. Her voice shook. And in Chicago. Clean break. Professional distance. It was all business, all strategy. And I was stupid enough to believe it meant something. Naomi. No. Tears burned her eyes. I let myself believe that someone like you could actually care about someone like me. That Chicago was real. That any of it was real. But it was just excellent acting, wasn't it? Stop. Damien crossed the room in 3 strides. Just stop. You don't understand what you heard. Then explain it. The call in Chicago? I was telling the COO the contract was ending. That we'd return to professional boundaries as agreed. Not because I wanted to, but because I thought that's what you wanted. What we'd agreed to. And yesterday, I'll handle Naomi. I was telling him I'd resign. That I'd handle the HR situation by removing myself from the company. Not you. Never you. His hands clenched at his sides. I would never ask you to sacrifice your career for me. You built this company from nothing. Why would you walk away? Because I'd rather build a life with you than an empire without you. The words came out fierce, certain. 15 years ago, I was a foster kid with nothing. I built Titan because I needed to prove I could. That I wasn't worthless. That I mattered. He moved closer. Close enough that she could see the anguish in his eyes. But I've been building an empire and calling it success while being completely alone. No one to celebrate victories with. No one who cares about Damien instead of the CEO. His voice roughened. And then you walked into my life with your brilliant mind and your incredible strength and your refusal to be intimidated by me. And suddenly the empire felt empty. Damien, Chicago wasn't strategy. It wasn't acting. It was the first real thing I've felt in years. He cupped her face in his hands. I love you, Naomi. Not as a contract. Not as an arrangement. I'm in love with you. And I will burn down everything I've built before I let you think you were just business to me. Naomi's breath caught. You love me? Desperately. Completely. Inconveniently. A broken laugh escaped him. I've been in love with you since you stood in that conference room 3 years ago and told me my marketing strategy had fundamental flaws. You were right, by the way. I just didn't want to admit it. Why didn't you say something? Because you worked for me. Because the power dynamic made it impossible. Because I'm a coward who hides behind contracts and arrangements instead of risking actual rejection. He pressed his forehead to hers. But I'm done hiding. I love you. And if that means I walk away from Titan, then I walk away. Serena cleared her throat from the doorway. I'm just going to step outside for a minute. The door clicked shut behind her. Naomi looked up at Damien, seeing the truth written across his face. The fear, the hope, the desperate, genuine love. Tomorrow morning, Damien said quietly. There's an emergency board meeting. 9 a.m. HR presented their ultimatum. One of us has to go. So you're resigning? Unless you have a better idea. Naomi thought about Chicago. The youth center photograph. 15 years of quiet support. 3 years of brilliant partnership. 6 weeks of discovering that real was better than any fake they could have pretended. I have a better idea, she said. But you're going to think I'm crazy. Try me, she told him. His eyes widened. Then he smiled. The real smile. The one that transformed his face from handsome to devastating. That's insane, he said. But is it crazy enough to work? Absolutely. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, finally her mouth, soft and desperate and real. God, I love you. I love you too. The words felt like freedom. Now let's go set a boardroom on fire. The Titan Industries boardroom occupied the entire 48th floor. Glass walls overlooking Manhattan. A table that could seat 30. Artwork worth more than most people's houses. 17 board members sat in leather chairs, looking variously concerned, annoyed, or smug. Marcus Bennett sat near the head of the table, practically vibrating with barely contained satisfaction. Patricia Hernandez stood with the legal team, looking uncomfortable. Damien entered at exactly 9 a.m. Every eye turned to him. Thank you all for coming on short notice. He remained standing at the head of the table, commanding, in control. I understand HR has presented a situation that requires immediate resolution. The anti-fraternization policy violation, the board chair said. Yes, we've reviewed the documentation. It's quite clear. You or Miss Smith must resign your current position. I see. And if I refuse? Then we're forced to consider this a terminable offense for both parties. Company policy exists for a reason. Marcus leaned forward, unable to hide his grin. Perhaps it's time for new leadership anyway. Someone without, shall we say, judgment issues. Several board members shifted uncomfortably. Marcus's ambition had always been poorly disguised. Then I'll make this simple. Damien placed both hands on the table. I resign. Effective immediately. Chaos erupted. Damien, you can't. Think about what you're saying. The Virtutech deal just closed. Gentlemen, ladies, Damien's voice cut through the noise. I built this company from nothing, 15 years of my life, but I won't sacrifice someone I love to keep it. Promote Marcus if you want. Name a new CEO, but Naomi Smith stays. That's not negotiable. The boardroom doors burst open. Naomi strode in wearing the emerald dress from San Francisco. Professional, powerful, absolutely devastating. Every head turned. No, she said clearly. I'm the one resigning. Damien's eyes widened. Naomi, Mr. Cross built this company. You need him. I'm talented, but I'm replaceable. She moved to stand beside him. Not behind, beside. I won't let him destroy his life's work because of me. How touching, Marcus drawled. But someone still has to go. Company policy. You're right. Damien looked at Naomi. In her eyes, he saw the crazy plan, the impossible solution, the only answer that made sense. He turned back to the board. Third option, we both resign. Stunned silence. You can't both. The board chair started. Watch us. Damien's hand found Naomi's. Naomi resigns. I resign. We walk away together. You get Marcus or whoever you want as CEO. We get our lives back. Everyone wins. That's insane, someone protested. That's love. Naomi squeezed his hand. And it's worth more than corner offices or stock options, or any of this. Damien turned to face her fully, letting the board disappear. Letting everything disappear except her. 15 years building this empire. Every hour, every sacrifice, every victory. His voice carried across the silent boardroom. Worth nothing if I lose you. Some things matter more than corner offices and quarterly earnings. She's worth everything. Then we both walk, Naomi said. Tears in her eyes, but voice steady. You resign. I resign. We choose each other. Their hands intertwined. Neither of them looked at the board, just at each other. This is professional suicide, the board chair said weakly. This is freedom, Damien corrected. Marcus shot to his feet. You can't just walk away from a company you built, from everything you've worked for. Watch me. Damien pulled Naomi toward the door. My resignation is effective immediately. Miss Smith's is as well. Our lawyers will be in touch regarding stock options and departure terms. But as of right now, we're done. They walked to the elevator hand in hand. Behind them, the boardroom erupted in shouting. Arguments. Marcus's voice rising above the rest, already positioning himself for the CEO role he'd schemed for. The elevator arrived. They stepped inside. As the doors began to close, Naomi caught one last glimpse of the boardroom. The chaos. The empire Damien had built. The life they were leaving behind. Then the door shut, and it was just them. We just quit our jobs, Naomi said. We did. We have no plan. Not yet. This is crazy. Damien pulled her close, kissing her thoroughly. This is the sanest thing I've ever done. The elevator descended, carrying them away from corner offices and corporate politics and everything they'd known. Carrying them towards something new, something real, something theirs. The office in Brooklyn didn't look like much from the outside. A converted warehouse in Williamsburg with exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows. Nothing like Titan's sleek Manhattan headquarters. But the sign above the door made Naomi smile every time she saw it. Cross Smith Strategies. Ethical business solutions. Inside, 12 employees worked at standing desks and comfortable workstations. A conference room with a view of the Manhattan skyline. A break room with a coffee machine that actually worked. and 2 corner offices that belonged to the co-founders. "Meeting in 10, Damien called from his doorway. Still devastating in a suit, still making her heart race when he smiled at her. Virtue Tech or the new client? Virtue Tech. They want to expand the consulting contract. 18 months since they'd walked out of Titan Industries. 18 months of building something new, something that mattered. Cross Smith Strategies specialize in helping companies navigate workplace relationships, ethical hiring practices, and corporate culture reform. The very problems that had destroyed their own corporate careers became their expertise. And business was booming. "Oh, you got another call from Titan's board," Naomi's assistant mentioned. "Third one this week." Naomi exchanged a glance with Damien. "What did they want?" "They want you both to come back as co-CEOs. Apparently, Marcus Bennett ran the company into the ground. Stock's down 40%. Virtue Tech partnership dissolved. They're desperate." "Tell them," Naomi started. "We'll think about it," Damien finished. At her raised eyebrow, he shrugged. "We can negotiate. Pro bono consulting. Help them fix the culture that caused the problem in the first place. On our terms?" That's what she loved about him. 15 years of cutthroat business, and he still believed in second chances. Speaking of second chances, Damien checked his watch. "We have somewhere to be." "The youth center?" "The youth center." They'd started volunteering at Queensbridge Youth Center 6 months ago. Mentorship programs, college prep, everything that had saved both of them, paid forward to the next generation. The subway ride to Queens felt like coming home. The warehouse office in Williamsburg was impressive. But this was where they belonged. Damien held her hand the entire train ride. Not CEO and employee. Not boss and subordinate. Just partners. In business and life and everything that mattered. The youth center looked exactly like it had 15 years ago. Same faded sign. Same peeling paint. Same teenagers trying to look tougher than they felt. "Miss Smith, Mr. Cross." A group of their mentees ran up. "You're doing the college essay workshop today, right?" "Wouldn't miss it," Naomi promised. They worked with the teenagers for 2 hours. College applications, scholarship essays, pep talks for kids who'd been told they'd never amount to anything. Just like she had been told. Just like Damien had been told. After the session ended. After the teenagers filed out, talking about SAT scores and application deadlines, Damien pulled Naomi outside to the parking lot. "Why are we out here?" she asked. "Because 15 years ago, this is where I first saw you, standing right there." He pointed to the entrance. 16 years old. Arms crossed, looking like you'd fight anyone who told you what to do. I was angry. "You were brilliant." He moved closer. "And you told me you'd never amount to anything. That kids from Queensbridge with single mothers and housing project addresses didn't get happy endings. I was wrong. Look at us now." His hands framed her face. "You're not a girl from Queensbridge pretending. You're a successful business owner who changes lives. You've mentored 30 teenagers in the last 6 months. 3 of them got full scholarships to colleges they didn't think they could attend." Tears pricked Naomi's eyes. "We did that. Together." "Not what we built," Damien said softly. "Who we became." He dropped to one knee. Naomi's breath stopped. From his pocket, he pulled a small velvet box. "I've been carrying this for 2 months, waiting for the right moment. And then I realized this is where we started. Both of us. This is where it should begin again." He opened the box. A ring sparkled in the afternoon sun. Simple, elegant, perfect. Naomi Smith, you've been my partner, my conscience, my best friend, and the love of my life. You walked away from everything to choose me. Let me spend the rest of my life choosing you back. Marry me? Through the windows, Naomi could see the teenagers watching. Phones out, recording. Absolutely no chill. She started laughing and crying simultaneously. Yes. God, yes. He slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her while teenagers cheered inside and car horns honked and someone yelled, "About time," from a passing vehicle. When they finally pulled apart, both grinning like idiots, Damien whispered, "Ready to start planning a wedding?" "Ready to start planning everything." She kissed him again. "Our company, our future, our life, all of it." Hand in hand, they walked back inside the youth center. Back to the teenagers who believed they'd never amount to anything. Back to proving that happy endings existed for people like them. The girl from Queensbridge and the foster kid who'd built an empire and walked away from it for love. They had everything that mattered, and they were just getting started. If Naomi and Damien's story touched your heart, hit that like button. It genuinely helps. Subscribe so you don't miss the next story, because trust me, it's going to be good. Drop a comment below. What was your favorite moment? And share this with someone who loves a good romance. They'll thank you. But before you go, I want to say something. Thank you. Thank you for being here, for investing your time in this story, for letting yourself feel something. I know how busy life gets, how rare these quiet moments are. I hope this brought you some joy, some hope. Maybe even reminded you that choosing love, real, complicated, beautiful love, is always worth the risk. Take care of yourself, okay? You matter. Your heart matters. And I really truly hope I see you in the next video. Until then, be gentle with yourself and keep believing in happy endings. You deserve one too.